that we have heard in the past few minutes from the Princess Royal, Princess Anne, on the death of Prince Charles.
Some important news just in for you, and Buckingham Palace has just announced.
Of course, over the next week, the royal family and the country will prepare to pay their respects to him for his funeral. But it will also be, I think, an important opportunity to really recognise his extraordinary commitment that he showed throughout the years.
Catherine and Anne, standing side by side as King Charles' casket began its solemn journey from Scotland to London. It was not just a farewell, it was history unfolding right before our eyes. Two women at the heart of the monarchy, breaking traditions that have stood for centuries. What really happened on that emotional day, and why did it resonate so deeply with everyone involved? Read on to uncover the touching details, and do not forget to share your thoughts in the comments for more royal insights. There is something profoundly moving about the way Princess Anne and the Princess of Wales Catherine came together during this time of grief. It went beyond protocol or public duty. It was about family loyalty and a quiet strength that defined their roles in the King's final journey. People often say you can judge a lot from a shared glance or a supportive touch. And in those moments as the casket left Scottish soil, those small gestures spoke louder than any speech ever could. One of the most heartfelt aspects many royal watchers noted was the way Anne, known for her no-nonsense demeanour, seemed to draw comfort from Catherine's presence. It was not scripted. It was genuine, rooted in years of shared experiences within the royal fold. This historic event did not just mark the end of an era, it highlighted how these two women have evolved into pillars of the modern monarchy. But to understand the depth, we need to go back to the bonds that tied them to King Charles. King Charles always had a special place in his heart for his sister, Princess Anne. She was the one who shared his love for the countryside horses and a straightforward approach to life. Insiders recall how they would laugh over shared memories from their childhood at Balmoral, where the king often found solace. Anne, with her dry wit, would lighten even the heaviest moments, much like she did during family gatherings. And then there is Catherine, the woman who brought a fresh perspective to the family when she married Prince William. Charles often praised her for her grace under pressure and her dedication to causes close to his heart like environmental conservation and mental health. He once said in a private conversation leaked to close aides that Catherine reminded him of the strength he saw in his own mother, Queen Elizabeth. Those words now echo with poignant irony. As the king's health declined in the serene Scottish Highlands, the family rallied around him. But it was Anne and Catherine who stepped up in ways that surprised even the most seasoned palace staff. Anne was there by his side in those final days at Balmoral, drawing on her experience from accompanying their mother's casket years ago. Catherine, balancing her role as mother and future queen consort, made frequent visits, ensuring the king's grandchildren brought moments of joy. Their interactions were not about titles, they were about compassion. A hand held during a quiet walk, a whispered reassurance in the face of uncertainty. These bonds forged over time became the foundation for the historic moment that was about to unfold. And as the casket prepared to leave Scotland, it was clear this journey would be unlike any before. The air was thick with emotion as King Charles' casket, draped in the royal standard, began its procession from Balmoral Castle. Scotland, where the king had spent so many happy summers, now bid a tearful goodbye. But what made this departure truly groundbreaking was the role of Catherine and Anne. For the first time in British royal history, two senior women led the vigil and accompanied the monarch's remains on this leg of the journey. It was a shift from centuries-old customs where such duties were predominantly male. Royal protocols drawn from Operation Menai Bridge, the code name for the king's funeral plans, had been meticulously updated to reflect a more inclusive era. Insiders whisper that Charles himself had input on these changes, wanting to honour the women in his life. As the cortege moved slowly through the misty highlands, Anne, dressed in her naval uniform, stood resolute, her face a mask of quiet determination. Beside her, Catherine, in a tailored black coat, her veil slightly lifting in the breeze, exuded poise that belied the grief in her eyes. The public caught glimpses of this on live broadcasts, and social media erupted with admiration. One moment that captured hearts was when Catherine placed a gentle hand on Anne's arm as they watched the casket being loaded onto the hearse. It was subtle but powerful, a symbol of unity in sorrow. This was not just about mourning a king. It was about two women stepping into the spotlight, rewriting the narrative of royal funerals. And as the procession headed to Edinburgh, the world began to realise the depth of this transformation. Catherine, the Princess of Wales, has grown into her role with remarkable grace. But at King Charles' funeral, she made history in her own right, becoming the first Princess of Wales to actively participate in the monarch's casket transfer from Scotland. Dressed in pearls once worn by Queen Elizabeth and Princess Diana, a nod to the strong women before her, Catherine stood as a symbol of continuity. Her presence alongside Anne was unprecedented, breaking the mould of traditional male-dominated processions. Insiders reveal that Catherine volunteered for this duty, wanting to honour her father-in-law's memory personally. "William and I have always drawn strength from family," she reportedly confided to a close aide. The emotional toll was evident. As the plane took off from Edinburgh, Catherine gazed out the window, her hand clutching a small locket containing a photo of Charles with his grandchildren. This quiet gesture, unseen by cameras but shared by those on board, spoke volumes about her character. During the flight, Anne and Catherine shared stories of the king's humour, his love for art, and his dedication to the environment. It was a moment of bonding that deepened their already strong relationship. Upon landing in London, the casket was met by a guard of honour, but it was the two women disembarking first that drew gasps from the crowd. Catherine's composure under the global spotlight showcased her readiness for future challenges. This was not about seeking attention. It was about paying tribute in a way that felt authentic. And in doing so, she inspired a new generation to see royal women as leaders, not just supporters. Princess Anne has always been the unsung hero of the royal family. Tough, resilient, and fiercely loyal, she made history once before by accompanying Queen Elizabeth's coffin from Scotland to London in 2022. That act earned her the nickname the Queen's steadfast companion from those in the know. Now at her brother's funeral, she reprised that role with even greater emotional weight. "It has been an honour to stand by my family in these times," Anne said in a rare statement released by Buckingham Palace, echoing her words from years prior. But this time it was different. Anne was not alone. Sharing the duty with Catherine marked a new chapter. Observers noted how Anne's experience guided the proceedings. She had been involved in planning Operation Menai Bridge, ensuring every detail from the floral tributes to the military escorts honoured Charles' passions. Flowers from his beloved Highgrove Gardens adorned the casket, a touch Anne insisted upon. During the brief service in Edinburgh, attended by Scottish dignitaries, Anne delivered a short reading, her voice steady, yet laced with emotion. It spoke of duty, family, and the enduring spirit of the monarchy. But behind the scenes, sources say she shared private tears with Catherine, recalling childhood antics with Charles. These moments humanised the royals, showing that even in history-making events, grief is personal. Anne's role was not just ceremonial. It was a bridge between past and present, proving that women have always been the backbone of the crown, even if history books overlooked them until now. And as the casket boarded the plane for London, the focus shifted to Catherine's emerging influence. Emotions ran high throughout the entire proceedings, but nowhere more intensely than during those intimate family milestones that unfolded before the nation's eyes and behind closed doors. These weren't just scripted rituals, they were raw, heartfelt instances that captured the profound grief and unbreakable bonds within the royal family. William, now king, stood watching with a mixture of pride and deep sorrow as his beloved wife Catherine and his steadfast Aunt Anne united in a display of quiet strength that echoed through history. Insiders close to the palace reveal that tears flowed freely, not only in the public glare, but in those private family huddles where the weight of loss truly hit home. Gathered in secluded rooms at Balmoral before the journey began, the family shared stories of Charles's life, his quirky humour, and his unwavering dedication to duty, which only amplified the heartache. Catherine, ever the pillar of support for her children, George, Charlotte and Louis extended that nurturing role to Anne, offering words of comfort during the long, sombre hours of preparation and travel. She placed a gentle hand on Anne's arm, a small gesture reminiscent of how she once brushed Charlotte's hair aside at Wimbledon to calm her nerves. But here it was magnified by the shadow of grief, providing a moment of solace amid the storm. Royal watchers and historians alike point to similar poignant scenes from past funerals like Queen Elizabeth II's, where Anne's emotional curtsy to her mother's coffin became an iconic symbol of devotion. In this case, Anne, known for her dry sense of humour and unflinching resolve, lightened the heavy atmosphere with fond anecdotes about Charles's eccentric habits, like his passion for organic farming or his witty asides during state dinners. These stories brought fleeting smiles to tear-streaked faces, reminding everyone of the man behind the crown. One particularly moving milestone came as the casket paused at Edinburgh, where Anne and Catherine shared a brief vigil. Their heads bowed in unison, a scene that mirrored Anne's historic role guarding her mother's remains at Westminster Hall. Catherine's eyes glistened with unshed tears as she whispered encouragements drawing from her own experiences of loss and resilience. The transformation in their relationship was palpable, evolving from supportive in-laws to true history makers, bound by a shared purpose and deepened empathy. This event forged unbreakable ties, pulling them closer in ways that circumstances alone could achieve, much like the tender father-daughter bond between William and Charlotte in happier times, but now tested by profound sorrow. Behind palace walls, whispers from royal staff and confidants speak of how this journey shook the family to its core. They realised in those quiet, reflective moments that Charles's vision for a modern, inclusive monarchy was not just words, but a living reality being embodied by these two women. Catherine's confidence blossomed visibly as she navigated her elevated role as queen, her poise a blend of grace and quiet determination, while Anne's legendary steadfastness served as the emotional anchor grounding everyone through the turbulence. It's these deeply human elements, the exchanged glances filled with understanding, the soft whispers of reassurance, the stifled sobs that escaped during the flight from Scotland, that make the story so profoundly relatable, even to those outside the royal sphere. Observers noted how Catherine's expressions during the procession conveyed a depth of emotion, similar to her sombre looks at Queen Elizabeth's funeral, where she held back tears while supporting her family. And trust us, the ripple effects of these milestones extended far beyond the procession itself, touching hearts across the globe as people saw not just royals, but a family in mourning united in love and legacy. From the nation's collective breath held during Anne's final curtsy to the casket before takeoff, to Catherine's reassuring nods to the crowds, these instances became emotional touchstones that will be remembered for generations, highlighting the monarchy's enduring humanity in times of trial. Looking ahead, the legacy of Catherine and Anne's historic act is already shaping the monarchy's future in ways that echo through palace halls and public sentiment alike. This wasn't a one-off event born of circumstance, but a deliberate precedent for inclusivity in royal rituals, drawing from Anne's groundbreaking participation in Queen Elizabeth II's funeral, where she became the first female royal to walk behind the coffin in procession, a move that shattered centuries-old male-dominated traditions. Now, with Charles's passing, their joint vigil and escort have amplified that shift, signalling to future generations that women can lead not just in life, but in the solemn rites of death. Royal experts suggest this could pave the way for more balanced roles in upcoming ceremonies, perhaps even simpler, more modern funerals that reflect evolving societal norms, much like the streamlined coronation William is reportedly planning for his own reign, one that's less formal and stiff than his father's. Future funerals or ceremonies might see more women in leading roles, inspired by their example, with Anne's stoic presence during her mother's procession serving as a blueprint for resilience and duty. Anne's ongoing patronage of over 300 charities, from riding for the disabled to maritime causes, continues to carry Charles's spirit forward, embodying his commitment to public service, while quietly influencing policy on everything from environmental conservation to youth development. Similarly, Catherine's unwavering focus on mental health through initiatives like the Royal Foundation's Centre for Early Childhood and her advocacy for early years education positions her as a forward-thinking force, ensuring the monarchy addresses contemporary issues like family well-being and emotional resilience. Insiders whisper that her ruthless discipline and no-nonsense approach, honed through years of public scrutiny, are forging her path as a future queen, one who channels the supportive partnership of Queen Elizabeth and Prince Philip while adapting it for a new era. Rumours suggest training in international relations and even tactical skills for younger royals to prepare them for global challenges. But for Catherine and Anne, it's about balance, blending tradition with progress to keep the institution relevant without losing its core values. They've shown that being royal means evolving, not stagnating, embracing change while honouring the past. William has spoken candidly of walking behind coffins in the past, evoking haunting memories of his mother Diana's funeral in 1997, where he and Harry followed her cortege, a moment that scarred him deeply. And now this adds another profound layer to his reign as he contemplates an overhaul of royal procedures, including potentially repurposing Buckingham Palace as a public space rather than a residence. The family dynamic has shifted dramatically with Catherine, stepping into what would have been Queen Camilla's shoes, but infusing it with her unique touch of warmth, accessibility, and modern sensibility, supporting William as he navigates kingship sooner than anticipated amid health concerns in the family. Anne remains the quiet leader, influencing from the sidelines her arresting stoicism during Queen Elizabeth's vigil, where she stood guard in military uniform, inspiring Catherine to adopt similar poise in times of grief. Their journey together from Scotland to London wasn't just physical, it was a metaphor for progress, bridging old protocols with new inclusivity and setting the stage for a monarchy that's more relatable and resilient. As the casket rested in Westminster Hall for lying in state, their continued vigil symbolised enduring strength, a poignant reminder that women's roles, once confined to mourning veils and black ensembles, are now expanding into active guardianship of the crown. Public reactions have been overwhelming, with social media praising their unity as a beacon for gender equality within the institution. This chapter closes one era marked by Charles's reign, but opens another full of promise, where quiet influence turns into lasting transformation, guiding the royal family toward a brighter, more adaptive future. As the echoes of that historic journey from Scotland to London fade into memory, one cannot help but reflect on the profound legacy left by Catherine and Anne's groundbreaking roles. This wasn't merely a funeral procession, it was a watershed moment that redefined the place of women in the British monarchy, challenging centuries-old traditions and paving the way for a more inclusive future. Drawing from historical precedents like Princess Anne's pioneering walk behind Queen Elizabeth II's coffin in 2022, where she became the first female royal to join the male-dominated vigil, their actions echoed a quiet revolution. Anne's steadfast participation then set the stage for this evolution. And now, with Catherine by her side, it symbolises a monarchy adapting to modern values, where strength is not gendered but shared. Royal historians point out that such shifts harken back to earlier eras when women like Mary, Queen of Scots, influenced mourning customs, introducing white mourning dresses that blended grief with grace. In King Charles's case, this duo's presence ensured his final journey honoured his progressive vision, emphasising family unity over rigid protocol. What comes next promises even more transformation. With William on the throne, Catherine steps fully into her role as Queen, not just a consort, but a guiding force in charitable endeavours, mental health advocacy, and early childhood initiatives that King Charles championed. Anne, ever the workhorse, continues her tireless patronage of over 300 organisations, her influence undiminished as she mentors the next generation. Together they embody a blended approach, tradition intertwined with innovation, ensuring the monarchy remains relevant in a changing world. Imagine future ceremonies where royal women lead without hesitation, inspiring young girls worldwide to see leadership in all its forms. This event has sparked global conversations about gender roles in institutions from palaces to parliaments, proving that grief can birth progress. The family's dynamic strengthened by this experience hints at a reign marked by empathy and resilience, with Catherine and Anne as its unsung architects. What was your favourite aspect of Catherine and Anne's historic moment, the emotional glances, the symbolic vigil, or the precedent-setting unity? Share in the comments below and don't forget to subscribe for more royal stories that pull at the heartstrings. Up next, we explore another surprising twist in the family's evolving saga. Through it all, one thing is clear: the monarchy endures because of women like them who blend tradition with trailblazing spirit, forging a path that honours the past while embracing tomorrow's possibilities.